My son threw me out of his own wedding. In front of 200 guests, under chandeliers and fairy lights, he pointed at the door and said, "Get out, Mom! My fiancé doesn't want you here." He had no idea that the restaurant that paid for that wedding still legally belonged to me, and that his bride had already tried to steal it behind my back. My name is Helen. I'm 60 years old. And this is the story of how one wedding shattered my family and saved my life. If you're a mother, or you've ever been told you're in the way in your own family, keep listening until the end.
The ballroom smelled like champagne and lilies. You know those weddings where everything is so perfect, you're almost afraid to move. Crystal glasses, white tablecloths, every chair tied with a satin bow. The kind where you can tell the chairs cost more than your first couch. The band played something soft and expensive. Guests laughed the way people laugh when they're just relieved they ironed the right dress. I stood along the far wall, near a column wrapped in white tulle. Navy dress, lace sleeves, the same dress I'd worn when my husband and I renewed our vows on our 25th anniversary. I'd taken it out of the garment bag that morning and thought, "Michael, please let this be okay. Please let them see me as part of this, not a problem to manage." Daniel and Harper floated off the dance floor like they'd rehearsed in a movie. Harper looked like the weddings in magazines, slim, perfect, glowing, smile calibrated exactly between sweet and confident. She glanced my way. Her smile didn't change, but something in her eyes did, like a curtain sliding shut. She leaned toward Daniel and whispered into his ear without looking away from me. His shoulders tensed. His hand tightened around his champagne flute. I knew that posture. He'd had the same look at 8 years old when a neighbor's window ended up cracked, and he swore he didn't kick the ball that hard. He put his drink down, brushed imaginary lint off his jacket, and walked toward me faster than he needed to. "Mom," he said when he reached me, voice low, jaw tight, "we need to talk." The band slid into another love song. People stepped onto the dance floor. An aunt somewhere clapped off beat. Nobody knew the bomb about to go off 10 feet from the head table. "What's wrong?" I asked. He swallowed, looked at my shoulder, then at the floor, anywhere but my eyes. "Harper's upset," he said. "She feels like your dress is a problem." I blinked. "My dress?" "Yeah." He exhaled hard. "She thinks it's too formal, too dark. People keep commenting on how beautiful you look. It's her day, Mom." "So I should have come in a potato sack?" Slipped out before I could catch it. He flinched. "You always do this," he snapped. "You turn everything into a joke." I took a breath. "I have another dress in the car," I said. "A simpler one. I'll go change." He shook his head. "No, she thinks it'd be better if you went home." For a second, I genuinely thought I'd misheard. "What?" "She's really stressed," he rushed on. "She says your presence is tense, that you're judging her. You've been quiet all day, and she feels like you're disapproving of everything she chose." I'd been quiet because every time I opened my mouth, I could feel 30 years of opinions fighting to get out. "This is your wedding, your life. I haven't said a word against it." "Exactly," he said, a little louder. "That look you get, like you're just putting up with everything." The nearest table stopped talking. "Daniel, we can talk about this tomorrow," I said. "You're upset." He cut me off, voice rising. Oh, this is about me being upset? Not you deciding to wear the same dress from your vow renewal to my wedding? Like you're competing? Someone nearby actually gasped. Competing? I am your mother, not your rival. And I'm your son, not your emotional support husband. He shot back. That one stung. And because it stung, I didn't answer right away. I glanced toward the head table. Harper stood there, hands folded around her bouquet, watching us openly now. Our eyes met. She didn't look pleased. She looked satisfied. The silence between me and Daniel stretched to beat too long. He seized it. You organized half this wedding, he said, voice pitched just high enough to carry across the nearest tables. You chose the caterer, you negotiated with the florist, you argued with the DJ about the playlist. You think that means you get to own the room? I helped, I said. That's what people do for their kids. He laughed, harsh. You think writing a few checks gives you permission to ruin Harper's night? Every conversation in our section went quiet. Daniel, lower your voice, I murmured. Why? He barked. So no one hears the truth? Heads turned, 200 witnesses, half with phones in their hands, waiting for the drama. He straightened his shoulders. Fine, he said. You want me to be clear? Get out, Mom. The words seemed to come from underwater. He said them again, louder. Get out, Mom. My fiancé doesn't want you here. A woman at the bar dropped her glass. I didn't cry. I didn't faint. I didn't do any of the dramatic things people expect in those situations. Inside, something broke in a neat, quiet line. On the outside, I nodded. All right, I said. My voice sounded like somebody else. I picked up my clutch from the chair behind me. My fingers fumbled with the clasp only once. No one stepped in front of me. No one grabbed my arm and said, Wait, this is too far. I walked across the room, past tables I'd helped pick linen for, past chairs I'd tied ribbon around 3 nights earlier because the decorator was behind schedule. At the door, I turned back once. Daniel stood with his back ramrod straight. Harper's hand looped through his arm. He was breathing hard. She was smiling. I opened the ballroom door and stepped into the cool, dim hallway. The music muffled behind me. If you've ever walked away from a room full of people who just watched your heart crack like a dropped plate and did nothing, you know that hallway feeling. I thought that was the worst thing my son could ever do to me. I was wrong.
When people ask where I live, I tell them over the restaurant. What I really mean is, I live inside a story we built from nothing with grease and flour and broken nails. And that story was the only reason my son's betrayal didn't finish me completely. Lantern and Spice sits on a corner near the harbor. Peeling blue trim around the windows, a neon sign in the shape of a coffee cup that flickers in winter. A door that sticks if you don't put your shoulder into it. To an investor, it looks like a liability. To me, it looks like home. Michael and I were kids when we bought it. He was 27, I was 25. Everyone said we were insane. Buy a townhouse, my sister told me. Something you can resell easily. Restaurants eat people alive. She wasn't wrong. We bought it anyway. We painted walls until midnight. We scraped old linoleum off the floor. We fixed a leak in the roof by putting a trash can underneath it and praying it didn't rain too hard before we could afford a roofer. Our first week open, we made $68 in profit. I framed that first week's ledger. We served fishermen at dawn, truckers at 10, office workers at noon, and drunk college kids at 2 in the morning. I learned to make coffee so strong it could wake the dead. Then Daniel was born. He spent his first year sleeping in a playpen behind the counter while I refilled sugar caddies. Michael would scoop him up during slow stretches and dance with him between the booths. "Lantern and spice," he'd say, rocking him like bread dough. "This place is going to pay for everything. College, retirement, braces, your mother's fancy shoes." "I don't have fancy shoes," I'd protest. "Yet," he'd grin. We were poor. We were exhausted. We were happy. Then we weren't. Michael's aneurysm came out of nowhere. One minute, he was arguing with the dishwasher about water temperature. The next, he was on the floor. Emergency room, machines, white walls, you know the rest. He died on a Friday night. We opened on Saturday morning. People tried to tell me to close. "You can't serve coffee the day after your husband dies," my mother said. "Watch me," I answered. Bills didn't care I was a widow. The electric company still wanted their money. The landlord still wanted rent. Grief had to share space with practicality. Daniel was 12. He stood in the kitchen that Saturday, face blotchy, hugging a towel to his chest. "I can help," he said. "I'm the man of the house now." "I'm a child," I told him. "My child." He helped anyway. He washed dishes until his fingers pruned. He wiped tables. He learned to scramble eggs without burning them. We slept in the tiny apartment upstairs with the sound of the refrigerator motor humming below like a giant heart. There were nights I cried so hard into my pillow, I was sure he could hear me. If he did, he never said. We survived. We didn't thrive. Not at first. Year after year, Lantern and Spice stayed open by sheer stubbornness and the grace of regulars who tipped in cash and brought their friends. When Daniel came back from college and said, "My place is here," I thought, we made it. We actually made it. We had no idea what kind of storm was still ahead. "Get out, Mom. He didn't know I owned the restaurant. I'm keeping my keys." Daniel always liked shiny things. He'd never admit it, but he did. When he was 5, he'd go wide-eyed over the chrome napkin dispensers more than the pancakes. He liked the way light bounced off polished surfaces. So I shouldn't have been surprised when he fell for a woman who gleamed. He met Harper at a hospitality conference. "She's in hotel management, Mom," he explained, breathless over the phone. "Specialty in asset optimization. She helps old properties make 3 times the money they used to. She's brilliant. You'll love her." Asset optimization is not a romantic phrase. But love makes ugly words sound pretty. The first time he brought her by, I was elbow deep in dough. The doorbell jingled. He stepped in, coat dusted with snow, eyes brighter than I'd seen them in years. "Mom," he said, "this is Harper."
She was tall and willowy, with perfect eyeliner and boots that had never met a puddle. Her coat probably cost more than our freezer. "Helen," she said, taking my flowery hand without flinching, "it's so good to meet you. This place is iconic." You ever notice certain words can be compliment or insult depending on tone? Iconic, vintage, traditional. I wiped my hands on my apron. "Welcome," I said. "It doesn't look like much, but it's kept us afloat." "I see a lot of potential," she said, eyes sweeping the room. "If you knocked out that back wall, extended the bar, brought in some reclaimed barnwood—" "We have reclaimed everything," I said, "just not from a catalog." She laughed politely. We sat them in booth 7. I made Daniel's usual: bacon, eggs, hash browns, pancakes on the side. Harper ordered a grain bowl and black coffee. Halfway through the meal, she pulled out her phone. "Don't mind me," she said, angling for light. "I just want to get some shots for inspo." "For what?" I asked. "For our mood board," she replied. "Daniel and I have been talking about your brand." My brand. She showed me her scream. Familiar details stared back at me. Our crooked sign, our chipped mugs, our mismatched sugar jars. On the next slide, next to the photos, were phrases: rustic nostalgia, story-driven dining, under-monetized asset. My stomach turned. "We're just dreaming," Daniel said quickly. "Nothing set in stone." "Yet," added Harper with a wink. That was the first time I saw the shape of the storm. Small, harmless looking, like a cloud on the horizon you convince yourself will blow the other way.
A month after that visit, I had coffee with Mr. Levin. He'd been our lawyer since before Daniel was born, back when Michael and I were signing loan papers with shaking hands. He came into the diner on slow Tuesday afternoons, always ordered tomato soup, always tipped too much. "I've been thinking," I said, refilling his cup, "about the will, the restaurant." "Daniel." "You're allowed," he said. "You're 60. Thinking about the future is what keeps me in business." He reached into his worn briefcase and pulled out a thin file. "I brought something," he said. He slid a document toward me. "This is the clause your husband insisted on," he said. I'd seen it before, but grief had blurred the words when we first signed everything. Helen Carter retains 70% of Lantern and Spice LLC and all controlling voting rights for the duration of her life and competence. No sale, major renovation, or brand transfer may occur without her written consent. "I still don't like it," I said. "I know," Levin replied. "You thought it was unfair to Daniel back then. Your husband didn't." He put his cup down. "Helen, you married a man who grew up watching his uncle lose his bar to a smooth-talking son-in-law. I drafted that will because your husband told me if I die first, Helen is the only one I trust not to be dazzled by big numbers and big smiles." I stared at the clause. Inner voices are annoying. They start whispering before you're ready to listen. What if Daniel's the one who wants to sell? I asked quietly. Then we cross that bridge when we come to it, he said. He pulled out a second item, a sealed envelope with my name on it in Michael's blocky handwriting. He asked me to give you this only if you asked about it, Levin said. I'm bending the rules because technically you just did. I laughed despite myself. What is it? I asked. A letter, he said. His words, not mine. I slid it into my apron pocket. I didn't open it that day. Part of me believed that as long as the envelope stayed sealed, the worst-case scenario it was written for would stay hypothetical. That's not how life works.
Driving away from that ballroom, I passed the harbor. The water looked black and flat, like a mirror someone had smudged. Streetlights reflected in it, wobbly and distorted. I thought of the first time I'd driven that road. Michael's hand on my knee, lantern and spice freshly painted, a stupid amount of hope in our pockets. 28 years later, I was alone in a car with mascara stiff on my cheeks and my son's words in my ears. Get out, Mom. At a red light, I pressed my forehead to the steering wheel and let out one sound. Just one. Half sob, half laugh. How do you even begin to process being told you're not welcome at the wedding you helped plan? When I got back to the restaurant, the sign was dark. We'd closed early that day for the wedding. The stillness of a place that's usually loud is unsettling. I went upstairs, slipped out of the navy dress, hung it carefully in the closet next to a suit that would never be worn again. In the bathroom mirror, I saw someone who looked like me, but older. Grief adds 10 years. Betrayal adds 10 more. I made tea I didn't drink, sat at the kitchen table I'd bought with our first good year profits, stared at the dent in the corner where Daniel had banged his toy truck at 4 years old. You can love someone so much it physically hurts and still know you have to say no to them. I hadn't gotten to the no yet. I was still at the hurt. The phone sat silent on the counter. I don't know how long I waited for it to ring that night. At some point, exhaustion did what sadness couldn't and dragged me to sleep. The morning light came in hard and bright. The phone rang at 10:17 a.m. Mom. His voice sounded hoarse. We need to talk. We do. And we will. But not with you reading off a script someone else wrote. He didn't even pretend not to know who I meant. Harper and I, he started. I know, I said. This is about the restaurant. Because it's never just about the dress.
If you've ever had someone tell you they're modernizing your life for you, you're going to recognize this part. Mom, Daniel said, I've been thinking. We've all been thinking. By we, you mean you and Harper. He sighed. Yes, we, he pushed on. Lantern and Spice is stuck. You're stuck. We could do so much more with it. Stuck how? I asked. You never change the menu, he said. You open and close at the same times you did 20 years ago. No online ordering, no QR codes, no Instagram presence. Do you know how many followers Harper has on her food account alone? I did not. I did not care. You could have a line out the door every weekend, he said. If we renovated, rebranded, got some press, maybe partnered with the hotel group. You want to turn Lantern and Spice into another one of Harper's projects, I said. It'll still be ours, he said quickly. You just step back. Let professionals handle growth. You could actually rest. There's that word again. Rest. People love telling women who have worked their entire lives that they've earned a rest right before asking them to sign something. What if I don't want to rest? I asked. What if I want to work until my hands give out, exactly where they've always worked? That's not sustainable, he said. You're 60. You're not going to be able to do this forever. You worried I'll drop dead over the griddle? I asked. Yes, he exploded. Yes, actually. I lie awake thinking about you slipping on a wet floor or having a heart attack while you're alone upstairs. Harper says... He stopped too late. What does Harper say? I asked. She just thinks, he said carefully, that you deserve better. A condo by the water, a part-time job consulting, or nothing at all. Freedom. And how do we pay for my freedom? I asked. Silence. We sell the building. We sell the brand. We keep partial ownership. We do it smart. We find investors. We negotiate equity. Harper knows people. My hand went to my apron pocket, where Michael's letter suddenly felt heavy through 2 layers of fabric. If I say no, I asked. He inhaled sharply. Mom, I don't want to fight, he said. I want to build a future for me, for Harper, for our kids. You're asking me to choose between being a good son and being a good husband. Only one of those, I said quietly, requires you to sign away your mother's whole life. He went quiet. We sat in the kind of silence where everything unsaid hangs in the air like smoke. I need time, I said finally. We don't have time, he blurted. The investors... There are no investors yet, I said. There are only ideas in Harper's head and numbers she's tossed in your ear. You're being unfair, he said. No, I replied. I'm being slow. That feels the same when you want something quickly. We hung up. I wiped the counter 3 times. Then I went to the pantry, pulled out the metal box, and took out the envelope. If you've ever opened a letter you know will change your life, you know how my hands shook. The paper inside was creased and yellowed at the edges. Michael's handwriting, familiar and messy, ran down the page. Helen, my love, if you are reading this, it means someone is trying to take the restaurant from you. Not ask, take. I don't know who. Maybe a slick stranger. Maybe a bank. Maybe our own son if someone gets in his head. If it's Daniel, remember this. I trust his heart. I don't trust fear, grief, or greed when they start whispering to him. You and I watched my Uncle Joe sign away his bar because his son's wife said they could do better. They sold, moved to a bigger house, bought new cars. When the market tanked, they lost everything. Uncle Joe died in a rented room over a laundromat, walking past his old bar every day with a key that no longer fit. I promised myself you would never be that old man pressing a useless key against a locked door. That's why you have control. Not because I wanted to cut Daniel out, Because I wanted someone in place who loves this place more than the idea of what it could be sold for. You are that person. If anyone, even our boy, tries to convince you that saying no is selfish, remember this. A woman who survived double shifts, widowhood, and raising a child alone does not become incompetent just because someone younger thinks they know better. Don't sign anything because you're tired, sad, or scared to be alone. If you doubt yourself, go to Levin. Get proof you're still all there. Then do what you know is right, even if it costs you the chance to be liked. Daniel can rebuild his pride. You cannot rebuild your spine. Lantern and Spice doesn't belong to whoever has their name on the paperwork. It belongs to the people who sit in those booths when they have nowhere else to go. You are their guard dog. Don't let anyone take your teeth. I love you. I trust you. Stay mean when you have to. Yours, M. I sat on the pantry floor and cried. Not delicate tears, ugly ones, the kind that make your face blotchy and your nose run. I cried for the 25-year-old me who thought love would solve everything. For the 40-year-old me who stood next to a hospital bed and signed DNR papers. For the 60-year-old me being told I was in the way at my own child's wedding. Then I wiped my eyes on the hem of my apron, stood up, and put the letter in the safe deposit box of my mind. My husband had given me instructions. I intended to follow them, even if it meant going to war with my own son.
You've heard of good cop, bad cop? There's a family version. Soft talk, hard documents. Soft talk came first. It arrived in the form of a text. Harper would love to have lunch with you tomorrow. Just the two of you. She wants to clear the air. 1 p.m. at Harbor Bistro. I stared at it. Part of me wanted to reply, "Clear what air? You already had my son throw me out." Another part of me knew this was not about air. It was about positioning. I wrote back, "I'll be there." Harbor Bistro has glass walls and metal chairs and food that looks like it was designed for photographs, not hunger. Harper was already seated when I arrived. Window table. Of course. She wore a cream blouse, gold earrings, a blazer that said, "I owned this meeting." "Helen," she said, standing to air kiss my cheek, "thank you for coming. You look great. I don't have long dinner rush prep." She put her phone face down, the universal gesture for, "I'm absolutely going to pick this up later." I know things have been tense. The wedding, the incident. I want to start over. "Do you?" I asked. "Or do you want to finish what you started?" Her smile tightened, then relaxed. "Honesty," she said. "Okay, let's be honest." She folded her hands. "Daniel is stressed, really stressed. He's trying to be a good husband and a good son, and he feels trapped." "Trapped by what?" I asked. "By you. By the restaurant. By feeling responsible for keeping it going and guilty for wanting something more." "I've never been forced to keep Lantern and Spice going," I said. "He chose it." "He chose you," she corrected. And then you used that choice to keep him anchored to a sinking ship. Interesting, I said. I wasn't aware we were taking on water. She sighed. Helen, look, she said, switching to her reasonable boardroom voice. I respect what you built, but we both know it's not sustainable. You work yourself to the bone. The building is old. What happens when something big breaks? The walk-in fridge, the roof. You have no investors, no safety net. One disaster, and you lose everything. I've heard that before. 28 years ago from the bank manager who gave us our first loan. We survived then. We can survive now. Why? Why survive when you could thrive? There it was, the slogan. You want to turn my life into someone's case study. How we took a mom and pop diner from cute to cash cow. She didn't flinch. I want to help Daniel give you the retirement you deserve and create something bigger for our family, for our kids. You keep saying our family. Interesting how I don't seem included in that. You will always be his mother, but we're the nuclear family now. You're extended. Extended. Like an overdue bill. Here's the thing, Harper. I don't want to be your cautionary tale or your success story. I just want to run my restaurant. She stared at me for a long moment. Then the softness dropped. Then, this is going to get ugly, she said quietly. I thought we were already there. She leaned back in her chair, eyes cool. Daniel doesn't want to push. He loves you. He feels guilty for what happened at the wedding. But guilt doesn't pay bills. He has responsibilities now. A baby on the way. We can't wait until you decide you're ready to let go. A baby? I repeated. Her chin lifted slightly. Yes, she said. 12 weeks. You're going to be a grandmother. It was like someone had unplugged me for a second. A grandchild. A person who'd never meet their grandfather, who might grow up thinking their grandma chose a building over them. Unless I told the story first. Congratulations, I said. I hope you don't use him as a bargaining chip. Her eyes flashed. We're done here, she said abruptly. Good. I have an afternoon rush coming. We both stood. She slid her card across the table. If you change your mind, she said, call me. Before the lawyers call you. I left the card there. On the sidewalk outside, the wind cut colder than the air temperature. Babies, lawyers, wills, investors. Michael's letter echoed in my head. Don't sign anything because you're tired, sad, or scared to be alone. I didn't know how much that would cost. Get out, Mom. He didn't know I owned the restaurant. I'm keeping my keys. Mr. Levin came by that evening. I didn't ask how he knew. Lawyers always know. We sat in the empty dining room after closing, napkins in a neat stack, chairs turned upside down on tables. You saw her, he said. Yes, I replied. He sighed. She called me the week before the wedding, he said.
wanted to understand the legal framework around the asset. My son's fiancée called you about my restaurant before they said their vows, I said slowly. Yes. What did you tell her? I told her I don't discuss my client's affairs with third parties without written consent, he replied. She did not like that. I'm sure, I said. He opened his briefcase, pulled out a pad of paper. I want you to understand what they can and can't do, he said. He drew a line down the page. On this side, he said, what's possible if you do nothing. On this side, what's possible if you act. Is this going to scare me? I asked. Probably, he said. Better now than in court. He started with the ugly column. They can petition the court, he said, claiming your management is harming Daniel's financial interests. They can argue you're refusing reasonable opportunities to grow the business. I am, I said, on purpose. Judges don't always understand on purpose, he said. They understand numbers. He continued. They can also try the competency angle. Subtly at first. How? I asked. Comments, he said. To friends. To doctors. We're worried about Mom. She forgets things. She talks to Dad like he's still here. She's so attached to the diner, we're not sure she's thinking rationally. I do talk to Michael sometimes, I admitted. So do I, he said. He's dead, not deaf. If they build a narrative that you're mentally slipping, he continued, and ask a court for guardianship for your own good, things get messy. I'm not slipping, I said. He nodded. I know that, he said. A doctor can know that. But courts are slow and imperfect. It's better to be prepared than be right too late. He flipped the page. On the other hand, he said, you have a strong will, clear documentation, and 30 decades of responsible operation. We can reinforce that with a fresh evaluation. We can put the restaurant into a trust with conditions that make it practically impossible to sell or strip without severe consequences. Consequences for whom? I asked. For anyone who tries to treat it like a cash machine, he said. I thought of Daniel's face when Harper had laid her hand on her stomach. Will this punish him? I asked. It'll protect the restaurant, he said. That's not what I asked, I replied. He looked over his glasses. Helen, he said, sometimes those are the same thing. The truth is, when you are the gatekeeper of something important, you don't get to come out clean. You either get called selfish for locking the gate or foolish for letting wolves in. I'll do the evaluation and the trust. Both, he confirmed. If he hates me for the rest of his life, I asked, then he hates you living in your own home instead of a sad efficiency over someone else's bar, he said. I'll take that trade. So would Michael.
I never thought I'd be grateful to sit in a doctor's office and be asked what day it was. The nurse smiled as she handed me a clipboard. Routine cognitive assessment, she said. Nothing to worry about. I knew better than to say, actually, my son's wife is positioning to have me declared incompetent so she can sell my restaurant. Instead, I said, I like tests. Give me all you've got. They made me draw a clock. Put all the numbers in. Set the hands to 10 past 11. They made me remember 3 words: apple, table, charity. Yes, I still remember them now. They made me subtract 7 from 100, over and over, until the numbers blurred. They asked me who the current president was, where I was, what my date of birth was. Then my doctor sat across from me, glasses low on his nose, and asked questions that weren't on the sheet. Do you cook for yourself? Yes. Do you manage your own money? Yes. Have you gotten lost recently in a familiar place? Only in supermarket aisles when they rearrange things. He chuckled. At the end, he tapped his pen on his pad. Helen, he said, you're as sharp as ever. Honestly, your blood work and your cognitive scores would make a 50-year-old jealous. So, I'm not crazy, I said. Not medically, he replied. You're grieving. You're under stress. But cognitively, you are absolutely capable of managing your affairs. Put that in writing, I said. He raised an eyebrow. Family trouble? He asked. You could say that, I answered. He printed a letter, signed it, stamped it. I made 3 copies, one for Levin, one for my safe deposit box, one for me. I stuck mine on the fridge with a magnet shaped like a coffee cup. Every time I walked by it, it reminded me I wasn't imagining the ground under my feet. Other people wanted to move the earth, not me. When the papers finally came, they didn't arrive with a bang. They arrived with a knock. I was in the kitchen mixing biscuit dough when I heard it. 3 sharp raps on the glass door. We weren't open yet. I wiped my hands, walked to the front. Daniel's truck sat crooked at the curb. Behind it, a silver sedan with a law firm's name on the plate frame. My stomach dropped. Daniel stood between the 2 cars. His shoulders slumped. He looked older than the last time I'd seen him, even though it had only been weeks. Beside him, Harper in sunglasses, even though the sky was overcast. Behind them, 2 men in suits with briefcases. Morning, I said, opening the door a crack. Daniel said, Mom, can we come in? I looked at the suits. Depends, I said. Are we having coffee or court in my dining room? Please, he said, just hear us out. I let them in. We sat in booth 3. The older suit introduced himself as McNeil, the younger one as Patel. Miss Carter, McNeil began, we represent your son, Daniel. Not my daughter-in-law? I asked lightly. He cleared his throat. And his wife, Harper, he added. Harper offered a tight smile. We're not here to attack you, she said. We're here to find a solution. McNeil opened his folder. As you know, he said, your late husband's will granted you controlling shares and administrative authority over Lantern and Spice. However, Daniel's 30% is substantial. He has rights as a co-owner. I haven't denied him those, I said. That's debatable, Patel muttered. He shot him a look. McNeil continued. The restaurant is currently an underperforming asset. Given its location in history, it could be generating significantly higher revenue. According to whom? I asked. According to industry standards and to Miss Harper's professional assessment. You mean the woman who's been here twice? Wants to criticize the curtains? Wants to take pictures? Harper's eyes flashed. This isn't about curtains. It never is, I replied. McNeil pushed on. Under state law, he said, a minority owner can petition for partition if the majority owner's actions constitute waste or unreasonable refusal to maximize the value of the asset. I'm serving breakfast. I'm not burning stacks of cash in the alley. He spread out a page full of numbers. Current annual profit versus projected profit under a redevelopment plan. We have estimates from 3 separate consultants. You paid other people to tell you how much more money you could make off my life? Lovely. Daniel flinched. McNeil slid a second document over. He said, "This is a proposal. You agree to sell the building to an investor group Miss Harper has connections with. You receive a buyout and a lifetime stipend. You may continue to live in the apartment upstairs for a fixed number of years rent-free. After that, you'll be provided for in a retirement community." A home, Harper added quickly, a really nice one, with activities, friends, support. I looked at her. The last time someone offered to move me into a really nice place with activities was I was visiting my great aunt in a nursing home whose roof leaked. "This isn't that," she insisted. "You can call a cage open concept. It's still a cage." Daniel leaned forward. "Mom," he said, "you'd never have to work anymore. No more early mornings, no more late nights. What would I do with my time? Anything you want. Travel, rest, see the world." "I see the world. It walks through that door every day." McNeil cleared his throat. "If you refuse this fair offer, we will have no choice to file for judicial partition. And as part of that process, we may have to raise questions about your judgment." "Here it comes," I murmured. "Your reluctance to adapt, your stubborn clinging to outdated business models, your emotional attachment to the property, despite clear evidence that restructuring would be in everyone's best interest. You're describing loyalty, not pathology." Patel chimed in. "We've also heard that you talk to your deceased husband as if he's still present." "Yes," I said. "Often." He blinked. "That's unusual." "For who? For people who loved their spouses? Or for people who marry assets?" Harper's jaw tightened. "Daniel is trying to give our child a good future. Why are you making that so hard?" "Because you're trying to pay for that future with my past." He exploded. "Will you stop talking like the diner is a person? It's a building, Mom. Bricks and tile and greasy floors. It's not Dad. It's not me. It's not our family." "That's where you're wrong," I said quietly. "Dad is dead," he yelled. "Dad is a box of ashes in the ground. The diner didn't save him. It's just a thing." He was shaking. So was I. He said, "You grieved him alone in here. You turned this place into a shrine. I'm not going to turn my life into a shrine, too. I have a baby to think about. And I have me to think about. For once." McNeil slid one more paper over. "Think about it," he said. "We'll give you time, but not much." I pushed it back. "I don't need time," I said. "Daniel," said, voice raw, "please, don't make me go to court against my own mother." "You chose the battlefield," I said. "I'm just deciding not to leave my sword at home." His face crumpled into something I'd never seen, a mix of boy and stranger. He whispered, "I don't have a mother. Not anymore." He stood up, said, "Let's go," to the lawyers. Harper hesitated. She said, "I'm sorry it came to this." I believe she was sorry it wasn't easier. When the door closed behind them, I didn't move. Grease stains on the floor, coffee rings on the counter, sunlight through the smudged window. All of it looked exactly the same as it had that morning. Inside me, everything was rearranging. If you've ever had your child declare you dead while you're still standing, you know that feeling. It's like being buried alive in a coffin shaped like your own kitchen.
Get out, Mom. He didn't know I owned the restaurant. I'm keeping my keys. I didn't go upstairs that night. I pulled out the folding cot we kept in the back office for overnight inventory counts and lay down. I stared at the ceiling until dawn turned the beams from black to gray. At 7, I called Levin. "It's time," I said. "It is," he said. We met in his office 2 days later. If you've never written a will that assumes your child might actively work against it, I hope you never do. We drafted the trust. Lantern and Spice went into it in its entirety. The building, the brand, the recipes, the equipment, even the flickering neon sign. I would be trustee for the rest of my life. After my death, control would pass to a 3-person board. Levin, Marta, our head cook for 20 years, and Mrs. Ortiz, the school counselor who ran the food pantry. "Not Daniel?" Levin asked. "Not yet," I said. We wrote his name in as a conditional beneficiary. "If," I said, "if he chooses to work here for 10 consecutive years, not as a manager, as staff. If he sticks with it through slow winters and busy summers. If he treats the place like a responsibility, not a lottery ticket, then, and only then, he can inherit controlling interest." "And if he doesn't?" Levin asked. "His share," I said, "goes into a scholarship fund for kids from this neighborhood who want to go to culinary school or start small food businesses." And if he fights this? Levin asked. We added one last clause. Any beneficiary, I dictated, who challenges this trust in court forfeits all rights and privileges under it. Their portion will be redirected entirely to the scholarship fund. Levin looked up. This is harsh, he said. This is clear, I replied. We signed. We notarized. We filed. When I walked out of his office into the afternoon sun, I felt lighter and heavier at the same time. I had just made it legally possible for my son to cut himself off from his inheritance, and legally impossible for anyone to cut me out before I was ready. Guardianship. Get out, Mom. He didn't know I owned the restaurant. I'm keeping my keys. Lawsuits and petitions move slowly. People don't. Harper's career accelerated. LinkedIn updates, articles shared, photos of her at panels, hair glossy, smile practiced. Local hospitality star to lead redevelopment of historic properties. One headline read, Historic, like me. I saw pictures of swanky hotel lobbies with Edison bulbs and velvet chairs. In one, she posed in front of a mural that said, If you're not growing, you're dying. I wondered if she'd ever seen a tree grow too fast and break. The court papers arrived in the mail in a thick envelope that thudded when it hit the counter. Levin and I went through them line by line. They accused me of refusing reasonable offers, emotional mismanagement, blocking natural growth. There it was, in black and white, my own son's name on documents listing me as an impediment. We responded. We attached the cognitive evaluation, Michael's letter, financial statements showing decades of steady profit. The judge scheduled a hearing. While we waited, life went on. I still cracked eggs at dawn. Marta still rolled out pie crusts. The same truckers ordered the same coffee from the same chipped mugs. Then small pieces of information started floating in. A regular mentioned layoffs at Daniel's company. Rumor is, he said, they're restructuring, merging with a bigger group. A barista downtown mentioned seeing Daniel at noon on a weekday, unshaven, nursing a latte longer than one coffee should last. Thought he worked full-time, she said. Maybe not anymore, I answered. News travels fast in small towns, especially the bad kind. One night, Levin came in late, face tight. We got an email, he said, from their side. They're dropping the suit, I guessed, without real hope. Not yet, he said, but Harper has hired separate counsel for herself. That usually means divorce, Marta muttered from the pass. She was right. Within months, the legal battle over my restaurant became the background noise to the legal battle over their marriage. I read the court updates like a stranger. Apparently, Levin said one afternoon,
She used the same tactics on him she tried on you. Modernizing his life? I asked. Monetizing it. She'd moved in with a senior executive from the hotel group, left Daniel in a small apartment with joint custody papers and half the debt. It's a strange feeling to be right about someone who hurts your child. Vindication and grief make an ugly cocktail. The first time Daniel came back, he didn't come to the restaurant. He came in a story from someone else. He's staying at that motel by the highway, a regular told me. They say he looks bad, drinking too much. I thought about going, walking into some beige hallway, knocking on a door, pulling him out of whatever mess he'd made. Then I remembered the look on his face when he'd said, "I don't have a mother." You can't pull people out of holes. They haven't decided our holes yet. So I waited. That's one of the cruelest parts about loving adults. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is nothing. 3 months later, at 6 in the morning, he showed up. His knock wasn't confident. It was tentative. 3 taps, pause, 2 more. I was prepping for the breakfast rush. Biscuits in the oven, bacon on the griddle. I wiped my hands, walked to the door. There he was. Thinner. Eyes sunken. Beard patchy. Like he'd tried to grow one and given up halfway. His jacket hung on him like it belonged to someone bigger. "Hi, Mom," he said. He swallowed hard. "Come in," I said. I didn't reach out. He didn't either. We sat in booth 3. He wrapped his hands around the mug like he was afraid it would disappear. "Levin told me," he said quietly, "about the trust." Of course he had. I nodded. I thought he might. "You really locked me out," he said. "I locked the wolves out," I replied. "You just happened to be standing near one." He flinched. Silence. The clock ticked. "I don't know what to say," he said. "How about the truth?" I said. "Start there." He laughed once, bitter. "The truth is," he said, "I thought she was my way out of the grind, out of smelling like fryer oil, out of being the kid from the diner." "And now?" I asked. He looked around. Walls, booths, the pass, the chalkboard menu. "Now, I spend every night dreaming about wiping tables," he said. "And I wake up wanting my hands to hurt from work instead of holding a glass." He stared into his coffee. "She said you were the problem," he said. "That you were keeping me small. That you wanted me trapped. I believed her." He looked up. "I'm sorry," he said. "I'm so sorry." There are 2 kinds of apologies. The ones that are really, "I'm sorry you're upset," and the ones that are, "I finally see what I did." This was the second kind. "I know," I said. "You're not going to say it's okay, are you?" he asked. "It's not okay," I said. "What you did, what you said, those things happened. They can't unhappen." He nodded, eyes glistening. "But," I added, "you came back. That counts for something." I came back because I ran out of options. I'm in a motel room eating instant noodles. I see Jamie in a playroom with plastic furniture, 3 days a month. I screwed everything up. You're not unique, I said. You're just early. Some men only figure it out at 60. He huffed a little laugh. I don't expect you to let me anywhere near the books, he said. I don't expect you to give me anything. I needed to see this place and see you and tell you I know I was wrong. Do you want a job? I asked. He blinked. What? Do you want a job? I repeated. Not as a partner, not as a victim, as staff. He stared at me. Washing dishes? I said. Doing prep. Taking out the trash. Doing whatever Marta yells at you to do. You show up on time. You stay sober. You don't complain. You earn a paycheck. Like everyone else. That's it? He asked. For now, I said. He let out a long, shaky breath. Yes, he said. I'll take it. Good, I replied. Be here tomorrow at 6. Bring work shoes. Everything else we have. He stood. Mom, he said. Yes? Thank you, he whispered. Don't thank me yet, I replied. Thank me when I haven't fired you after a month. He smiled for the first time, a small, crooked thing. The kind of smile you get when you're not sure you deserve it.
When Daniel bought to halves, I told him to get out, Mom. That was a new kind of sadness. When I came back, my keys still fit. He didn't know I owned the restaurant. I'm keeping my keys, I told him. Working with your child after they've tried to take everything from you is strange. You watch them clock in, tie on an apron, pick up a rag, and part of your brain is still replaying court phrases like partition of assets. Daniel started in the dish pit. If you've never worked a dish pit at a busy diner, you don't know what humility smells like. He swore his way through day 1. Soap up to his elbows, steam fogging his hair, Marta barking orders over the sizzle. By midday, his shirt was soaked. How'd you do this and run the front and raise me? He asked when we finally closed. Badly, I said. Sometimes I did it badly. He laughed. I thought I knew what hard work was, he admitted. I didn't. Now you do, I said. He showed up the next day, and the next, and the next. He asked questions, listened, burned his hand once and didn't make a scene. We didn't talk about the past when we were shoulder to shoulder in the kitchen. We talked about orders. Eggs over easy. Bacon crisp, not burnt. Table 6 wants extra syrup. At night, when the chairs were upturned, we sometimes talked. Little drips at first. How'd you keep the books the year Dad died? He asked one night, wiping down the bar. The same way I kept everything, I said. 10 minutes at a time. He nodded. I thought we were poor growing up, he said. We were more stretched. We were poor, I replied. Poverty with pancakes still counts as poverty. He smiled. I used to be embarrassed to tell people I lived over a diner, he confessed. I know, I said. How? He asked. You stopped inviting people over, I replied. Kids don't get subtle. They just get quiet.
He winced. "I'm sorry," he said. "You're forgiven," I replied. "For that part." We both knew there were other parts that would take longer.
I met my grandson for the first time in the middle of a Saturday rush. The bell above the door jingled. Daniel glanced up from the grill. His whole face changed. "Hey, buddy," he called. A little boy with dark hair and big brown eyes hurtled toward him. "Daddy!" he yelled, bouncing on his toes. Daniel flipped the order he was on and caught him in one motion. Kids have a way of making tired men look 5 years younger. "Jamie," Daniel said, turning him to face me, "this is Grandma." "Grandma," I swallowed. Jamie studied me with open curiosity. "You're old," he announced. "Accurate," I said. "You're sticky." He looked at his hands. They were indeed covered in something orange and suspicious. He wiped them on my apron before I could react. "Now I'm sticky," I said. He giggled. That was the moment I forgave him completely. Children have no idea what they fix just by existing. I made him a Mickey Mouse pancake with chocolate chip eyes. He demolished it. He ran between tables, introducing himself to regulars like he owned the place. "This my grandma's restaurant," he told the mailman, "and my daddy's." I didn't correct him. Technically, it wasn't his father's. Yet. But the way Jamie said it, it sounded less like a legal fact and more like a prophecy. The first time Harper came back after the divorce, she didn't come inside. She pulled up in a sleek SUV, engine idling, sunglasses on. Daniel met her on the sidewalk to hand Jamie over. I watched from behind the counter. Her posture stiffened when she saw me. For a second, our eyes met. I saw a flash of something I couldn't name. Regret? Resentment? Calculation? She broke the gaze first. "Say goodbye to Grandma," Daniel prompted. Jamie waved enthusiastically. "Bye, Grandma. See you again." "See you again," I corrected gently. Harper opened the car door. "Come on, Jamie," she said. "Mommy has a meeting." Jamie hesitated. He looked back at the diner. "At least say thank you," she added, voice tight. "Thank you for pancakes," he yelled. "You're welcome, sweetheart," I called. Harper buckled him in. She closed the door, walked around to the driver's side. Before she got in, she turned back. For a moment, she looked like she wanted to say something. She didn't. She got in the car and drove away. Watching that car head down the road, I realized something. For years, I'd thought of her as the villain in my story. But standing there, with my hands in dishwater and my grandson's sticky fingerprints on my apron, I felt something strange. Pity. She had climbed and climbed and climbed. And for what? To sit in a car with a child she barely seemed to know? And a life built on who she could impress next? You can win the game and still lose yourself. Time has a way of slipping by when you measure it in shifts. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, breakfast again. Daniel hit his 1-year mark back at the diner. Then 2. Then 3. He messed up. Of course he did. He forgot to place an order once, and we ran out of bacon by 10 a.m. If you've never seen a room full of regulars told they can't have bacon, you don't know panic. He double-booked a Saturday for a private party and had to juggle a 70-person baby shower with a full dining room. He missed a shift once, just once, in the early months. He called me from the motel, slurring. "Mom," he said, "I can't come in. I messed up. I drank. I'm sorry. Fire me if you have to." I took a breath. "Go to your meeting," I said. "Call your sponsor. Do not come here like this. Tomorrow at 6, you start over at Dish Pit. Again." He whispered, "Again." "And Daniel?" I added. "Yeah," he said. "I will have you escorted out if you ever show up here drunk, son or not." He was on time the next day, sober. We didn't talk about that night for a long time. When he hit 5 years, Levin called. "You want to adjust the trust?" he asked. "Not yet," I said. "Why not?" he asked. "He's proving himself." "Because I want to know he's not just in love with the idea of redemption," I said. "I want to know he's married to the work." 7 years. 8. Jamie grew into his face. He stopped calling me Grandma and started saying Gran because it was cooler. He did his homework at Booth 5. He learned how to wipe tables properly. He learned you don't put knives in the sink. Blade up. One night at closing, Daniel lingered in the kitchen. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked. "What?" I said. "Not selling?" "Yeah," he said. "All this, the trust, standing your ground, losing me for a while." I thought about quiet mornings and nights of crying and lawyer bills. "Only on Tuesdays," I said. He laughed. "So every Tuesday?" he asked. "Some Tuesdays," I replied. "Most days, I'm glad I didn't move to a condo to stare at white walls and wonder who's burning the eggs." He sobered. "You know she moved again," he said. "Harper?" I asked. "Yeah," he said. "New hotel, new town, new husband." I shook my head. "Always chasing the next thing," I said. He looked at his hands. "I don't want to chase anything anymore," he said. "I just want to be here, to be enough." "You are," I said. "For the first time, you really are." On Daniel's 9th work anniversary, I called Levin. "Now," I said. "Now?" he asked. "Now," I repeated. We met in the same office where I'd cried over Michael's letter. My hair was grayer, my hands more lined. The trust document looked the same. We added a clause. "If," I dictated, "Daniel Carter completes 10 consecutive years of employment at Lantern and Spice with no major breaches of trust, the board may, at its discretion, transfer controlling interest to him while I am still living." Levin frowned. "You're sure?" he asked. "No," I said. "That's the fun of it." He smiled ruefully. "You're softening," he said. "I'm old," I replied. "There's a difference. I don't have time to haunt him from beyond the grave if I guess wrong. I'd rather watch it play out from the living room." We signed. We notarized. Again.
I didn't tell Daniel. Not yet. Some gifts are best given when they're least expected.
10 years to the day, after Daniel started over at the dish pit. We closed early. Bad weather, we told the regulars. They looked out at the clear sky, confused, but they left. I wiped down the counter more than necessary. Daniel was stacking chairs. "Grab a seat," I said. "Booth 5. He frowned, but did as he was told. Jamie, now 15, slid in beside him. "What's going on?" Daniel asked. "You'll see," I said. Levin walked in, jacket over his arm, face the same and completely different. "Evening," he said. Daniel's eyes widened. "Oh, God," he muttered. "Who died?" "No one," I said. "Sit still." Levin placed a folder on the table. "I'm off the clock," he said. "This is family business." I sat across from them. "For 10 years," I said, "you've shown up here. Sometimes happy, sometimes hungover, sometimes angry, sometimes hopeful. Every day, you've had a choice. Run or stay." He swallowed. "You stayed," I said. "That was the only test that ever really mattered." Tears pricked his eyes. "Mom," he said. I took off the chain around my neck. The keys clinked softly. The front door, the back door, the office, the freezer, the apartment. 30 years of wait. "Your grandfather," I told Jamie, "gave these to me on a night so cold, the coffee froze in the pot if we opened the door too long. Your father," I said to Daniel, "told Levin I was the only one he trusted to hold them when he was gone." I laid the keys on the table. "Today," I said, "I'm not giving them to you." Daniel blinked. "You're not?" he asked. "I'm offering them," I said. "There's a difference." He frowned. "I don't understand," he said. "Good," I said. "Maybe you shouldn't right away." I pushed the folder toward him. "In here," I said, "is the amended trust, the conditions, the rights, the responsibilities. If you accept the keys, you accept all of it. 10 times the work you ever imagined. Very little glory." I looked at Jamie. "And if you don't," I said, "this one gets a chance when he's 30. Not 20, not next year. 30. Old enough to have failed at least once." Jamie made a face. "30 is ancient," he said. "You'll blink," I replied. Daniel stared at the keys. "I don't know if I'm ready," he said. "That's how I knew you might be," I answered. He laughed, choked. "You sure you want a man who almost threw your life away running this place?" he asked. I thought of Harper's car pulling away, of legal threats, of motel rooms, of dish pits, of pancakes for a grandson who thought sticky hands could fix anything. "I want a man," I said, "who has been all the way to the edge and decided not to jump. This restaurant doesn't need a hero. It needs a guardian who knows what it means to almost lose it." Daniel wiped his eyes. "Mom," he said, "I don't know if I can ever make up for what I—" "Stop," I said. "Making up and moving forward are not the same thing. You can't pay off the past. You can only spend the future differently." He took a breath. His hand shook as he reached out. He wrapped his fingers around the keys. They jingled softly. "Okay," he said. "Okay." Levin smiled. "I'll bring the rest of the paperwork tomorrow," he said. Jamie leaned forward. "Does this mean we're rich?" he asked. We all laughed. "No," I said. "It means you're responsible. Those are very different things."
We sat there for a while in the quiet diner. 3 generations, one set of keys on the table between us. I thought of all the words that had led us here. Get out, Mom. I don't have a mother. I messed up. I'm sorry. I'll take the job. Pancakes. And one more. Stay.
If you've listened this far, maybe you heard echoes of yourself in this story. Maybe you're a mother people call stubborn because you won't roll over and sign away your security. Maybe you're a son or daughter who believed someone when they said your mom was the problem, and you're starting to suspect they were wrong. Maybe you're the harper in someone's story, realizing you burned a bridge you might one day need. Wherever you are, remember this. You are allowed to protect what's yours, even from people you love, especially from people who think love gives them the right to rewrite your life. You are allowed to say no to deals that sound good on paper and awful in your gut. You are allowed to keep your keys. My name is Helen. I'm 65 years old. A wedding tried to erase me. Lawyers tried to intimidate me. Fear tried to shrink me. I stayed. And because I stayed, there is still a place in this town where a tired person can sit in a booth, wrap their hands around a warm mug, and feel, even for a minute, like the world hasn't completely forgotten them. If this story touched something in you, tell me in the comments where you're listening from and what keys you refuse to hand over. You can just write, I'm keeping my keys. Maybe it's a house. Maybe it's a business. Maybe it's just your peace. Whatever it is, guard it. Because someday, the people who told you you were in the way may come back, sit across from you, and say, I finally understand why you didn't move. And when they do, you'll be glad you were still there.